The war had not yet come to us. We lived in fear and hope and Sorry. The war had not yet come to us. We lived in fear and hope and tried not to draw God's wrath down upon our securely walled town with its 105 houses and the church and the cemetery, where our ancestors waited for the day of resurrection. Twice a year the tax collector came and always seemed surprised that we were still here. Now and then merchants came, but since we didn't buy much, they soon went on their way, which was all right with us. We needed nothing from the wide world and gave it no thought until one morning a covered wagon, pulled by a donkey, rolled down our main street. It was a Sunday at the beginning of spring. The stream was swollen with meltwater, and in those fields that weren't lying fallow we had sown the seed. A red canvas tent was pitched on the wagon. In front of it crouched an old woman. Her body looked like a bag, her face seemed made of leather, her eyes looked like tiny black buttons. A younger woman with freckles and dark hair stood behind her. But on the coach box sat a man we recognized even though he had never been here before. And when the first of us realized who he was and called his name, others too realized, and soon many voices were calling from all directions. "Teal is here! Teal has come! Look, it's Teal! It could be no one else." Teal! Hey, welcome back everybody. This is Read More with Trevor. Thanks for watching. Just got a short episode for you this week where I'm talking historical fiction. I'm not the biggest historical fiction guy, but working in a library, I really recognize how much people absolutely love it. And I happened to read two entries kind of in this grouping lately, so I thought, hey, why not? First selection is Teal by Daniel Kehlmann, and just to be frank, sorry folks, it's not a straightforward historical fiction book. It's a little bit described as a magical historical fiction, which I know for some of you that may be a turnoff, but hear me out, okay? It's a fantastic piece of writing and an imaginary experiment about the 30 Years' War, where this young man is orphaned in a very tragic way from his family. He's the son of a miller, and the miller kind of had the bad habit in the 17th century of having your own opinions and perspectives on things. And he's sought out by some authorities, and before you know it, young Teal is kind of off on his own. Then we get, by various almost random episodes, certainly non-linear, we find out more about this guy who he's transformed himself into this acrobat, jester, fool, who travels about Europe, kind of befriending nobility and a bard at one point, and sort of these characters. At times Teal is kind of the subject of the chapter. Other times he's like in the background, and you barely even notice how he's connected to the story. But he's sort of this trickster figure that for whatever reason Kehlmann is trying to get at a certain spirit or zeitgeist of this era, 17th century Europe, where it's Protestants versus Catholics. There's war, famine, disease, just complete disaster, civilians kind of at the wrath of marching armies and contending forces everywhere. And at the same time, despite this dark subject matter, it's actually very light in tone. It's almost a smirky book. Teal is this ultimate survivor of the trickster who just can always kind of get through things and has to be twice as clever as anyone else in order to live. So it's kind of a very smart, very funny, wink kind of historical fiction relating back to our own times. And I think people would get a lot out of it. It's certainly popular with European audiences. It's being translated into, or it has been or is being translated into 20 different languages, which I read that online and was just like, wow. And I guess very soon turning into a Netflix series. So be on the lookout for that. I don't know if that'll be English language or in the original German, but either way, what just original, fascinating kind of take on an era we don't think too often about, but was certainly just as destructive and tragic and crazed as, you know, some parts of the 20th or even 21st century. Okay, so if that one's a little too much for you, this one's just a little bit more classic, very straightforward for lovers of historical fiction. Did want to put this in front of you. I don't think it's been a slam dunk hit, so I think it's a bit more of a sleeper. The Secret Guest. It's by Benjamin Black. Some of you may know this name. Benjamin Black is actually the Booker Prize winning author John Banville, who a lot of people say is kind of buzzworthy of one day getting the Nobel Prize for literature, perhaps. And, you know, if you've ever read John Banville, it's this very precise, like just crafted down to the word and the assonance in vowels. You know, this is someone who's like an artist of the sentence, of the paragraph, of the novel. And meticulous is a word that comes to mind with Banville. Well, Benjamin Black is his pseudonym, and don't worry about having to step your way through loads of vocabulary. Benjamin Black is John Banville having fun and just letting himself write and tell a story and spin a yarn, and that's exactly what he does here. According to Benjamin Black, he says that he heard that during World War II, the two royal daughters, Margaret and Elizabeth, now Queen Elizabeth. I almost said are. Queen Elizabeth went to Ireland for safekeeping during the London bombings. Famously, the Nazi Germans bombing London overhead in late 1940. So that's where it opens, October 1940, and George VI has to do his utmost to protect the two holders of the future crown. So he sends them away to a distant relative in County Tipperary in neutral Ireland. That's done in very secretive fashion. England doesn't want anyone to know about this, and only one MI5 agent, Celia Nash, is appointed as their protector. And at her side is kind of this Anglo-Irish, which is a meaningful distinction, Anglo-Irish policeman, Garda Strafford, who he does not know who these two are supposed to be. He knows something's up with them, but no one's saying much. And as things sort of percolate, and especially the girls get bored at the estate, there's different people at the estate. You know, these are Irish folks who are a little suspicious of these two well-dressed young girls and their keeper coming along, and intrigue ensues, so we'll say. It's a tension and aftermath of like Irish republicanism from the Civil War, the Irish War for Independence, of course, being left over from about 20 years before. Famously, Ireland stayed neutral during World War II. And yeah, just frankly, Black here kind of dealing with some English obliviousness about Irish antipathy towards the crown and the English. There's a lot going on here. 20th century history buffs, Irish history buffs, British history buffs, a lot going on. At the same time, too, just what a fun sort of light read. So maybe for your like weekday night reading, if you want kind of a mystery, little bit of a thriller, and you know what? It's just fun for people who like Graham Greene, John le Carré. The Secret Guest. Have to tell you about it. Thank you all so much for reading more this week with me. I hope I put two in front of you that you'll consider. If not, hey, let me know. What are you reading right now? I want to hear about it. Okay, we'll see you guys next time. And remember, read more.